Peace, family. This video today is about how the enemy is evolving. Okay? The enemy is evolving. They are, or it is, because like I always say, the enemy is an energy. It's not a specific person. But this energy is evolving by learning from us and by copying us, and then by using what they learn from us against us. So the specific gift that I want to talk about today that's being used against us is the gift of using tarot cards and divination. Once again, I want you to understand that when I speak about the enemy, I'm not talking about a particular person. I'm speaking about an energy that fills empty vessels and spaces that are not protected. Okay. This energy can hop from person to person, and it can stick with people for a long time as well. So a lot of times it'll look like we're being attacked by a certain person, but really we're being attacked by an energy that is working through people or through situations. And here's the thing, I feel like the enemy used to more so work through situations than individual people. So it used to work through, it used to have power in family situations, in tradition, culture, religion. It was like a system of suppression. And yeah, so I feel like that's how the enemy used to work. Okay, so before I really get into this, I want to talk about how I got into tarot and divination in the first place. Okay, because I grew up Christian. I did not grow up quote unquote spiritual. My mother was very serious about that. She my family like really believed in the literal Bible. So where it said that like fortune tellers and things like that were from the devil, I really believed that. We really believed that. And it wasn't until I was like very grown that I even considered anything like a tarot reading. And it wasn't even, I didn't, when I finally did it, it wasn't because I was interested in tarot. I was desperate. Like I needed an answer to a question. I will also say that the person I went to was somebody that I trusted and somebody that I felt like was very wise, and they just so happened to be offering readings. And so I felt like I could trust that person. So for me, it was a situation where I had lived with my mom. Me and my husband had lived with my mom, or me and my ex-husband had lived with my mom for a while, and we lived there with our kids. And I had finally gotten like a quote unquote good enough job to like save up and for us to move out, excuse me, and for us to move out of my mama's house. But it had like just happened, and we hadn't saved up the money yet, right? I had just got the job. And so I discovered that I was pregnant and this would be my fourth kid. And I still live with my mama in her laundry room. Like, it was not ideal. And so I got a reading because my head wanted to not keep the baby, but my heart wanted the baby. And I felt like, it's like once you have 3 kids and you cross into 4, it just felt like this shame that was just continually raining down on me. People was, my cousin, I remember, said something to me like one time, like, damn, ain't it about time for you to get pregnant again? Because you do it like 5, 4, 3, 2, like that type of energy. So, and I was not in a space to financially support all those kids. And I was just trying to get myself in that space, right? It was like I had finally graduated grad school. I finally got, the job with the benefits and the set. And it wasn't much. It definitely wasn't enough for us to not feel like we were still broke as hell. But I mean, so long story short, I didn't know what to do. And so that's why I got a reading the first time that I got a reading. It was about a situation, right? That's the thing that I'm trying to explain, is that the enemy used to work through situations that would split what your spirit was telling you to do versus like what you feel like the rules of the situation would tell you to do. So it makes you feel like you're going against the energy of what's right. Yeah, I forgot where I was because I had to pause it for a second. Okay, but yeah, but the point I was trying to make though was that the enemy used to work through situations where your spirit would be telling you one thing, and the energy of the situation, like the rules of the situation, would kind of be indicating that you should do something else. And so in choosing yourself in your spirit, you appear rebellious, okay? Or you appear unwise. That's how I feel like the enemy used to work, or at least that's how the enemy used to work in my life. And so it got to the point that I couldn't like follow the rules of quote unquote Christianity anymore without looking crazy, if that makes any sense. So I'll say this. Okay. The next, when I got into readings heavily, right? Because like I said, it was that first situation with my son, who I did have, and he's wonderful, and I love him, and I just dropped him off at camp, and he is the coolest kid ever. But that's an aside. So the first time was like about that, was about a situation, but the second time was because I was so fully in a situation that I could not understand or work through, that there was nothing in the Bible. I mean, obviously the Bible is always helpful, but in terms of like day to day, I feel like I was in a very blind alley. Like day to day, I did not know what to do. I did not know what was happening. And that is when I started turning to readings on YouTube, because astrology wasn't helping me. Scripture wasn't helping me. Everything that I had known was kind of or the people who supported those systems that I had been involved in, I feel like they thought I was crazy. And I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but y'all just keep listening, and if it resonates with you, then if this is for you, it's for you. If it's not, I'm sorry if this is not making sense. But let me go back for a second. What I meant when I said it felt like the Bible couldn't help me anymore, or like me following the Bible would make me look crazy, is that there's always these spaces in the Bible, even though people are like, you should live a biblical life and you should follow scripture or whatever. There's spaces in the Bible where God tells people to do certain things and they look fucking crazy. They look insane. Noah looked insane when he was building an ark. Okay, people were like, what the fuck are you doing? You're crazy. Abraham looked crazy when he walked away from his whole family. Abraham looked crazy when he told people that God was gonna bless him with a baby and bless him with a bloodline, and his wife was like 99 years old. Okay. Moses looked crazy when he kept telling Pharaoh to let his people go. He looked crazy when he had a stick and he pointed at the Red Sea. So I'm saying, like, it's a lot of places in the Bible where common sense is not common. And so when you hit that space in your life where you feel like your life is straight biblical, meaning nothing makes any sense, like the impulses, the downloads that you're getting, they make you look like a fucking nut. Okay. And that's when, but people even who are Christian or who follow the Bible, who follow those principles, they will look at you like a fucking nut. They're not going to look at you and say, oh my God, they're the next Moses, or oh my God, they're Noah, they're building the ark. No, they pray for you. They basically like ask God to make you sane, even though you feel like God is the one that's making you insane. So I feel like that energy was like very strong in my life. And if you're listening to this video, probably in your life, I would say around like between 2015 to 2019, where shit just stopped making sense. Or maybe 2014. Hell, maybe 2012. No, I'd say 2013, 14, 15, up to 2019. Shit just started not making sense. And you started making choices and decisions that made you look crazy, but they were absolutely what was right for you. Okay. So as for me, that's the kind of situation that I was in 2015, and we had left Chicago. We didn't have money. I was like we were living out of a hotel in Arizona. That was the first time in my life that I had just been actually homeless. We depended on people that we shouldn't have. And I'm not saying that anything against those people. I'm just saying, like, it's God. Like, it's the type of situation, like, if you know, right? Where you can't even really place blame, because it just all feels very supernatural. Like, I got moved to California. I'll just put it that way. There's details, but the details don't really matter. I got moved to California. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I got switched out of one timeline into another. I got switched out of one reality into another. And I'm very grateful that it happened. But when it happened, I looked crazy as fuck. And the Bible wasn't helping, and the people who was reading the Bible wasn't helping. So what I'm saying is, there's this part in the Bible where the Lord leads his people out of Egypt into the promised land, but he leads them through the desert for 40 years, through the wilderness for 40 years. And during that time, he leads them as, or maybe not the whole 40 years he led them this way, but there was a period of time where he led them as a pillar of fire. And for me, I feel like that is the Spirit of the Lord, like leaving the place where God is usually found and leading you to the next place where God wants to be. So for me, that was tarot. I feel like the Spirit of the Lord moved into tarot for me. And so the cards were placed in my hand, and messages were placed in my heart, and understanding was placed in me. And I feel like God taught me tarot. Because nobody came and taught me, like, and I teach other people. If you're listening to this video, you probably have taken one of my classes or got a reading from me or something. But this is a system that was taught to me through, like, the Holy Spirit. That's the way that it felt to me. And I'm sure there's lots of other tarot readers who are way more popular than me who can, because I'm not even a popular reader, but like actually popular, successful readers who can testify to what I'm saying right now. Is like, it's kind of like God, when it's time for you to step into that particular ministry, you just know what you need to know, or the lessons, the people, the teachers, it will be brought to you. For some of you, maybe I've been that teacher for you, and I'm grateful that I've been able to be that. But what I'm saying is, that's the Spirit of the Lord for me. And so it's odd, because you could have Christians that look at tarot and say that it's a sin and it's not biblical and it's not what you're supposed to be doing. But if you know, you know, okay? Like, that's all I can say. God uses cards too. There's a part in the Bible where the Lord even made a donkey talk, okay? My mama used to say, like, look, if God can make an ass talk, then, like, you should never discount anybody's message. So that's how I feel about tarot. I feel like the church got a little tainted. The devil moved into the church. The devil knows scripture too. But like I said, the devil was moving through situations, not individuals, but through situations more so. It was the energy of institutions and rules and regulations and stuff like that was like killing the true Spirit of God. So I feel like God moved, okay? But his people will always find him. His chosen ones will always find him. Okay. So a lot of us ended up doing what would look like, as a sin, divination and shit like that. But it was literally to continue to follow the true divine energy. Yeah. So for me, like I said, I got into tarot heavy because I was in situations that I didn't know how to deal with. And I needed tarot to help me see on a day-to-day basis how to handle those situations. And then it turned into a ministry, right? It turned into a light that was beginning to shine out to other people. So like I used this light to help me through my particular darkness. But then it became a light to other people. And see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what the video is really about. Okay, the fact that the enemy is tricky, and as soon as you use a light to overcome through darkness, and that light begins to get brighter, it's going to attract people. And so it's going to attract the right people who are of that light, who are similar to that light, but it's also going to attract people who are opposed to that light, but still attracted to that light. Attracted to that light because that light presents a challenge to them. Yeah, and you want to put it the fuck out, because that's what they were born to do. So the thing that I would just want to keep coming back to is, I used to use tarot, and I feel like most of us who use tarot used it to figure out our situations, because God was calling us into different situations. So your life is probably completely different than it was between 2015 and 2019. You probably don't know the same people. You're probably not the same person. Okay? But in order to do that successfully, you had to see your way out of certain situations. And the reason why that could have been so difficult is because these were probably situations that we were born into, that we were raised into, that we were indoctrinated into, that we were taught was correct. And so the breaking from those situations was really like a breaking from everything that we have known. And when you do that, when you start demanding more and better for yourself, and that's not a judgment, it's just like on what resonates with you. When you start demanding to be in situations that feel good to you, when you're no longer willing to accept situations that just are kind of half-assed and just don't feel good and feel kind of fucked up, but like it's always been fucked up and we always deal with that or whatever. When you decide that you're the one that's going to break that chain and what's been good enough for everybody else is no longer good enough for you, what's going to happen is you are resisting the devil. Because like I said, this energy, this enemy energy, it lives in these situations. Well, what does the Bible tell us? It tells us that if we resist the devil, he will flee. Right? So by not dealing with these situations anymore, it's a lot of people that just like fell out of our lives. We didn't have to specifically say this person is toxic or that person is toxic or this person is toxic. It's just a whole, it's like if you're of that tribe, you're gone. If you're not of that tribe, then you still resonate with me, then you can stay, but you would be in a different situation with me. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, it was situational. Okay, so by seeing like the people who fell out of our lives because we refused to continue to meet them in certain energetic spaces that no longer supported us, that no longer supported our newfound divinity, we started getting an idea of who the enemy is because we saw who didn't fuck with us no more. Like, oh, okay. So then you start to see the ways that they kind of kept you in those situations, because it's like it's now the absence of it. Like that shit doesn't work anymore. Not because you specifically told this person, hey, you can't fuck with me like that anymore. It's like they don't even have access to you anymore because you don't involve yourself in those situations. And so you can feel so clearly that you just really don't want to fuck with them no more, because to fuck with them would mean you'd have to put yourself in certain situations to fuck with them, and you don't put yourself in those situations anymore. You feel me? Okay, this is what I'm saying. Okay, so what happened with that was the people who kind of like lost access, I won't even say people, the enemy who lost access to us because we stopped fucking with certain situations. In order for that enemy to regain access to us, it now has to appear to be opposed to the same situations that we are opposed to. It has to appear to be an ally, because now we're loners. Like we have probably, if you resonate with this message, if you know, you don't really fuck with nobody from your past. Okay. You are in completely new situations. So the way that the enemy would get close to you is going to now be through people, not situations, because you're not going to involve yourself in situations anymore. You are too smart when it comes to situations now. So now the enemy has to adapt, it has to evolve. It has to come at you now through people. Through people who are going to appear to be like you. So they're going to appear to be loners like you. They're going to appear to be people who are distancing themselves from certain situations like you. They're a kindred spirit like you. They're going to be spiritual but not religious like you, right? But the difference is going to be their backstory, right? They would not have come to those conclusions, to those spiritual conclusions in the same way that you have. Because here's the thing, the enemy is not, so it's going to be appear to be spiritual, it's going to be doing tarot, it's going to be like doing all that shit like you do it, right? Like, yeah, we don't really fuck with religion, organized religion, and yeah, we don't really fuck with those types of situations, but it's like not, the backstory doesn't match your backstory. The reasoning doesn't match your reasoning. Because it's an imitation, right? The evolution is imitation and then repetition. So it's going to imitate your attributes, right? Spiritual, a loner, not dealing with certain situations, but their light won't be genuine because they didn't have to develop that light, because they didn't have to get through any darkness. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So now they're just gonna seem to have that light. They imitate the attributes of that light, but they don't actually have that light. And this isn't something that you're gonna outright know or see. This is something that you're going to feel or sense, that just, they're supposed to be kindred, but they're not. I don't know how else to say it. So what I'm seeing now is that there's now this influx of tarot readers online. And they're like you. Right? They're spiritual. They have messages. They're loners. They don't fuck with organized religion. They don't fuck with certain people. They have separated them. You know what I mean? Like, they speak that way. But there's just something different. Okay. So here's what I'm trying to say. This is the only, because this shit is like really tricky. It's really subtle. Okay. The thing that I hold on to is that when I got into tarot, the reason that I got into it was to know how to deal with situations. It wasn't personal. It was, should I move here? Should I do this to make money, or should I do that to make money? Like, should I live in this city or that city? Should I call this person or not? Like, if I do, what should I say? Like, it was situational. Now the readings are extremely paranoid, where they're not situational, they're personal. They're all about, should you trust this person? This person thinks this about you. That person is wondering what you're going to do. They thought this, but now they know this. It's very personal now. And I feel like that's because the enemy cannot get to us through situations anymore. We're too smart for that. So now they're sending in these loner spiritual energies that seem like seekers, but really what they're seeking is to devour and destroy, because they're the enemy, because that's the fuck the enemy seeks to do. It's not new. It's not new. Okay. But the thing is, it's, whereas before, the situations kept you stuck, kept you around, kept you bound. With people, it's like the reverse. Like, they need you to keep them around. So they have to be much more subtle. They can't be a bully. They can't try to overpower you. They have to, like, sneak and slide so that they can stay in your energy unnoticed. And it's not going to be like an overt discomfort with situations where you're like, God, I fucking hate this. I hate going in this job. I hate going in this place. It's really more subtle. Like, I just feel a little uncomfortable around this person. I don't know why. I just feel like something's off. And you don't have proof, right? Like, it's, no one's doing anything to you. No one's being mean to you. In fact, people could be being very nice and sweet and kind to you, smiling at you, loving on you, not criticizing you, not fussing at you, not calling you rebellious, not saying that you're breaking rules or you're crazy. No, now they agree with you about everything. Yeah, me too. It's really big me too energy right now in the spiritual space, right? Yeah. So that's that's the evolution. That's the mutation of the enemy. Is now the enemy is your friend. Now the enemy is kind and sweet, and they're not going to put you in situations, because the enemy knows not to put you in situations, because if they put you in a situation, you'll recognize the situation immediately and you get the fuck out of it. So it has to be more subtle than that. Okay? So the way that I am seeing to get out of this trap is to stop focusing on these readings that are focusing on other people. If there's a person in your life and you have any sort of question about if they are who they say they are, or if they are genuine, or if they're an ally or an enemy, the second you go pick up your cards or go look at a reading to see if that's the case, to confirm your intuition about this person, the enemy has already won, because now you're distracted. Because remember, in my last video, I don't know if you watched them in order, but in my last video, what I said was, the enemy knows that it can't win. So its new tactic now is to keep you in a losing vibration, is to deny you the confirmation of the fact that you have won, is to deny you acknowledgement of the fact that you have now put yourself in better situations, that you have won these battles. The enemy's not, they don't want to acknowledge that for you. They're not going to validate that for you. Okay? So when you're around the people that are not enemies, you're going to know it, because they actively, you feel, here's what I'm trying to say. You just wouldn't question it. Like, if you have questions about, can I trust this person? Those questions would be answered while you're with that person. You wouldn't be away from that person and still have these lingering doubts of, like, can I really trust this motherfucker? You would, like, want to lean in. Okay? That's how relationships should feel now, because we've worked too hard to get out of these situations where they felt the opposite. So, but there's this energy now that's just trying to get us to settle for this vague, distant distrust, mistrust, dis-ease, anxiety. Can I trust them? Like, because I feel like we're so hyper vigilant about not getting put back in the type of situations that we just had to get out of, that we're very hyper vigilant about the people that are around in our lives. And so when the enemy is sowing energy in our lives that's against us, it cannot anymore reveal that that's the case, because it has no rules to force us to follow. So, because we got free of that shit. So it has to have different tactics. So if you find yourself wondering if you can trust somebody, then that's it. Like that, like you can't. Now, I'm not saying that you can't, because it doesn't even really matter. It's that you don't want to spend your time wondering. You don't want to spend your time caught up in figuring out on a day-to-day basis what somebody else is thinking about you, or thinking towards you, or going to try to do towards you. It made sense for tarot, for us to be like on these, in this day-to-day readings and in these day-to-day confirmations, because we were in situations that were changing day to day. And we actually had to physically get out of the situations. Now that we're out of the situations, who gives a fuck about the fluctuations of a person's energy towards us? It's gotten to the point that now the enemy is tricking us into thinking that their energy, their personality, their plans is somehow powerful enough to make us pay attention to it. That's another trick of the enemy. Nigga, you already lost. Like, so I'm not going to keep paying attention to the plans of a loser. I'm not going to be all caught up into, the decisions and the emotions of a fucking losing ass energy. Absolutely not. And once you do that, it puts you in a losing energy. And we're not trying to be in that energy anymore. We're in a winning energy. So when you're in a winning energy, you stop paying attention to the losers. And anybody that makes you, any energy that makes you question if it's loyal or not, if it's down for you or not, if it's fucking with you or not, that's a distraction. So right there, it's just something wrong with it. You don't have to figure out what's wrong with it, because that's another time hole. That's another trap. You just know if it's not 100%, then it's just, then it's not. You put it in that category like, something there. And that's the other thing too, is I feel like when we got out of these situations, like I said, tarot was like the fire of the Lord moving into the next realm of spirituality. But now that the enemy has infiltrated that space too, is very narcissistic. It's very self-focused. It's very like wondering what another motherfucker is thinking or doing. So again, the true spirit of God is becoming a pillar of fire and moving out of that space and into our hearts, into our intuition. Like, God lives in you. That's all this ever was. It wasn't at the church. It wasn't in them cards. It's a free spirit, and that spirit is now in you, because we're getting to the point where we just have to trust ourselves. We can't be out here asking, because this is what they basically, the tarot space then turned into, is asking the devil for confirmation that he really fucking with us. Like, nigga, yeah. And you're going to get reading after reading after reading after reading, confirming what you already know, but also driving you crazy. Okay? So, yeah, we got to get out of there. And I didn't even expect to say all of that. But it's true, because like I said in the last reading, if the enemy can't outright defeat you, which it can't, it's going to settle for the next best thing, which is to distract you, which is to keep you from reaching your full potential and to keep you from blooming fully into the fullness of what God has for you. Because I feel like you really ain't seen nothing yet. All the fuck we did was get free. There's so much to do now. And we have so many gifts, talents, skills, downloads. Like, we have books to be written, songs to be sang, communities to be built, food to be made. Like, there's so much to do. And if we are constantly caught up wondering if another motherfucker gonna try to stop us, listen to that for a second. There's so much to do, but instead of doing it, we gonna sit up and watch videos to see if somebody is gonna try to stop us from doing it. Nigga, didn't it seemed like, yeah, they are stopping you from doing it. Because what are you doing? It's so close, we can't see it. But that's what I'm here. That's what this big ass light in the camera is for, because I want to help us see it. Okay? So like I said, it's not about the people. It's not something to take personally. It's really not. It's an energy. This energy is going to always move around and try to get as close to us as possible. So you can't take it personally if there's people in your life that you feel like you can't trust, as long as you are in situations that you feel good about. Because we've worked too hard to get into the right situations for us to let the people in those situations drive us out of them, because now we paranoid about these motherfuckers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I feel like that is what spiritual warfare is it's very up close. It's going to be in your face. Because if it becomes war when you're not going to give up your position. When you're not going to give up your position in this relationship. You're not going to give up your position in this situation. Okay? But you're also not going to let these little day-to-day subtle energetic fluctuations distract you from your ultimate purpose, which is to shine on these hoes. And that's on period. That's all the fuck we're supposed to do at this point. Is shine, beam, glow, shine, show up, show out, speak up, speak out, be visible. You know, that's the battle right now. Because I feel like it's all this energy of like, oh, they fucking with you, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. It makes you want to hide, you know? But, no, we're not fucking doing that anymore. So I just want to read this last little part that I wrote. Okay, I wrote, there will always be hecklers in the audience, but that doesn't mean you stop your show. And even if you do stop your show and move venues, there will still be some hecklers. They've just learned to be quiet and not boo, because they know if they boo, they're going to get put out. And you cannot spend your days watching tarot trying to see who in the audience is a heckler or not, instead of spending your time writing material for your next show. Okay? So make sure your shit is on point. Instead of figuring out who supports you, who's really down for you, just get so fucking good at what you do that you make everybody's head explode. That's the only option. Just gag them. That's all we can do. Okay? All right. So that's all I got to say about that. I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.